Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. As we begin, can you say a few words about your current role and what are some of your responsibilities?
Well, thanks, Misha. It's great to be here today. My name's Steve Garrison. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing at Stellar Cyber. I run global marketing for the company. I own product marketing, growth marketing, and inside sales.
Got it. Interesting. Inside sales, that's usually, you get everything, but both sides of the aisle. Well, this kind of paints a picture on where you are and your career trajectory, but can you maybe say a few words? How did you get into cybersecurity marketing? What was the impetus?
Well, it's actually a long journey, and it's part of the artifact of living in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley and networking a lot. This is my 9th company since I came to the Silicon Valley region. I'm based in San Francisco, however, but long story short, started out in chips, making chips. I actually went to school to be a chip engineer, a fabrication engineer. Realized after being in a bunny suit, as we called it, in a clean room all day, I didn't like that. And management in my second startup realized I actually like to talk and ask questions. I didn't know that was a skill, Misha, but it turns out it is. And I moved into sales and marketing and actually got into networking and IT, selling IT infrastructure, moved from network to cloud. And my last company before this one got bought by Lenovo. And I was on the search. I had avoided cybersecurity, by the way, because I always thought cybersecurity was a little strange and you had to know too much about the magical algorithm that would make your product different. And I networked my way into Stellar Cyber, and I've been here ever since, and I'm really enjoying it. And I want to encourage people to realize what I had in my mind was wrong. Cybersecurity is a great place to sell infrastructure because guess what, Misha? What's the biggest problem in marketing? People need you, and they need to need you, and they need to prioritize budget. Well, guess what?
Right. Well, it's absolutely. It's this. You want to be selling painkillers, not vitamins.
Yes, correct.
You want.
Simple.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's that simple. People need cybersecurity is not just vitamins. You need to protect your business, and if you're not going to do that, you'll be in the news or you'll lose your data and you'll be paying ransom for it. Either one is very uncomfortable. So,
or if you look at Las Vegas, you'll be paying ransom and then still have your systems down.
Systems down. Yeah, you do not want to be at the MGM Grand this week. Definitely not.
No, absolutely not. And it seems like the data that was lifted included social security numbers and a lot of personally identifiable data that's really was way too sensitive to. And the pain that a lot of people are feeling is probably has something to do with the fact that as a defender, you have to be right 100% of the time, and as an attacker, you only need to be right once. And it's a little bit of a symmetrical, unfair setup that makes the job more painful and more difficult for practitioners. Well, it's an interesting journey from chips to network to cybersecurity. I think as you mentioned, you realized how interesting cybersecurity is. I think a lot of people are realizing that as well. There's just the space is exploding in importance and how much money VCs are investing, and the headlines, the rags that are coming down from SAC about disclosing breaches in 4 days. I think there's just a lot more eyes on cybersecurity as a space, and I think as a result, a lot more junior practitioners are looking to make a career in cybersecurity marketing. From your vantage point, from your experience, what would you recommend someone who is either trying to make a switch from technology marketing to cybersecurity marketing, or maybe even earlier in their journey, they're just looking into space? What do you recommend they should focus on, the 2-3 things they should really pay attention to, spend their time on to set them up for success?
Yeah, I think it's well said, by the way. It is not only on the practitioner side, are there hundreds of thousands of openings in North America and globally millions. It becomes the opposite for the vendor, who has to now present a face and a story so that practitioners feel they can trust them and learn from them, right? So it is a boom on both sides, and I think that's excellent. I had my start was through management. Management picked on me and said, we need somebody to get on the phone and call prospects and communicate them the value of our product. So I kind of went into it kicking and screaming, Misha, and I think to turn that around, a lot of companies hire students in the summer for interns. I think that's one avenue. We absolutely would entertain interns next summer to work on my team, because there's a lot of rudimentary tasks that sure aren't game changers long term, but they help you cut your teeth, so to speak. Database management, list building, building tools that are just looking at data and using your brain and seeing if you see trending. So data science is a soft skill. Event and field management, logistics is a soft skill. These are both good entry point roles where, sure, that's not the most exciting job, but you can get into a team, learn from your peers and your management, and get a sense of, is this fun? Do I see this as a career? It's harder though to come in at the senior level, and this is one of the challenges of life. You don't get the VP job day one, and you don't get to run the team day one. You've got to prove some value and show some expertise. But those were my recommendations: intern or networking. This is how I got my job. I networked with my former employers and management and said, hey, anybody looking? So use LinkedIn, use your school as a path, use your city as a path, and go to marketing functions and look for vendors and say, hey, I'm young and green, but I'm excited. People like enthusiasm, and people like people to hustle. So at least I do.
Certainly, I think it's very good advice. And I think it's the fact that the industry is growing. It's also probably a good sign, because it's, if the tide is going to lift many ships, you're a little bit hedged on the downside. I think it's certainly an industry that I would personally strongly recommend for someone who's junior to take a good look. With marketing in general and cybersecurity marketing in particular, it seems like every couple of years or so there is one theme that just captures everyone's attention. For a while it was inbound, that was pioneered by HubSpot, that everyone was just fascinated by this concept. It took people a while to realize that if you build this inbound engine, only a tiny fraction of that traffic that you generate will convert to actually leads and prospects and paying customers. Then it was, large scale industry conferences. There was so much money still going into RSA and Black Hat and Gartner, InfoSec World. There was probably a couple dozen of those events. Then with COVID, everyone went to, virtual roundtables, webinars. Everyone is doubling down on that. I know now it's PLG. Everyone is product-led growth. I think AI, I don't know if AI is going to be the next wave or not, but it seems like there is always like one thing that's just top of mind for everyone. But if you kind of dig down, it's really maybe one tool in the toolbox. So in your toolbox, what is working for you? You have an interesting perspective, both sales and marketing and sales. Yeah. If sales team is reporting to you. What is working for you to kind of move the needle in your go-to-market?
Yeah, it is a journey, and I think you gave a good historical view. And I remember the days where we just had business cards and stuffed them in our pocket and went back to the office and typed them into, at that time, I don't remember if we called it a spreadsheet, but look, I think this is actually the challenge with marketing too, and it's the challenge with sales. You can read all these books about always be closing and, be the challenger sale. And I think the same is true with marketing. There is actually not one tactic that works. And actually, that's actually the real answer. The real answer is you have to do multiple things in parallel. Why? Well, the good news, we've talked about it. Cybersecurity is a booming market. The problem is there's thousands of security players. And customers, unfortunately, Misha, overbuilt the last 10 years. So they have too many tools, too much data. They're getting a lot of false positives, and they don't have enough people. It's the skill gap problem. And so I have my own model. I call it my resilient lead gen model. And what I have is about 12 parallel paths for lead gen. And we look at all of them. And the big message is, first, be strategic and focus. Do not try to brand and do demand gen. Let's pick on North America in all 50 states. Look where your sales team is. look where your strong partners are, look where your initial customer base is, and micro brand it, demand gen in that region, because now I can take that customer, put them on a pedestal, bring people to meet him or her, do a little dinner, do a little field marketing event. Oh, next week we're at the show down the street. Build in a patch and focus, but still think of multiple paths. White papers, get some downloads, SCM, have some click ads. Think of those regional events. Think of leveraging your regional partners. By the time you layer it all together, you're going to start to realize that first they do this, then they do that, then they do that. You see a pattern and a playbook, and then you can take that as a template and replicate it in other regions. So they call this integrated marketing. It's not called that anymore, but the idea that one trick will drive the horse race or the ponies, it's not going to work anymore because there's so much noise, Misha. So you've got to have a model of 5 to 10 touch points. That's the number I see to get people to align with you.
Interesting. So essentially, figure out the pieces of your go-to-market, pick a state, pick like a territory to try it, figure out now you have ingredients, now you need to figure out the proportions and the sequence. Once you hone your recipe on one state, then you can replicate it across the region. That makes a lot of sense. I think
it took us a while to figure that out, by the way. This wasn't Steve being a rocket scientist and day one I walked in. It's looking at data. You have to have a data science brain or team. And that's the beauty of all these systems like HubSpot or Marketo or Salesforce or even your Google tools, is that they're giving you data, but you've got to look at the data for qualitative trends. You're not going to get a 5 nines line, a linear regression any day soon. It's going to be more like 60% if you're into linear regression data. And people who are deep in math know what I mean, but it's just look at the dots and see if the breadcrumbs are telling you a story. This is why there's a growing trend for folks like me to drive inside sales, because if I spend money on content syndication and I can't get airtime from the inside team to test that data, we wasted money. So we realized about a year ago at Stellar Cyber, because inside sales is funnel creation and marketing is funnel creation at the end of the day, having one captain manage those resources and tightly couple them. We've seen the results already. We've seen the ROI improve internally. We've seen the internal efficiencies go up. And I highly recommend that as a discussion. Now, I still have to be tightly coupled to the outside teams and the CRO, and he's my peer in this case, Jim O'Hara, and we are. And as long as we have a good relationship and communicate well and set goals for each other and honestly and transparently measure each other, it doesn't matter who people report to, right? It's just good organizational theory, but I can't emphasize it enough. Having everybody in funnel creation aligned, you're going to get much better results.
For sure. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I like it a lot. And we often see the opposite, actually, which is when demand gen teams report to sales, and you turn demand generation and order takers, and I think it's not exactly the right approach, but yet we see a number of companies kind of going down that route. But I think it's not optimal for many reasons. Switching gears a little bit, well, cybersecurity it's an ever-changing, always moving target with technology, with different ways to defend, different attack vectors. But I think cybersecurity marketing as well, and marketing in general. I know when email first came around, the response rate was 100%. It was novel. No one. It was just like, wow, someone sent me something. I have to open it. I think now it's just kind of it's what single digit, if you're lucky, the response rate. And I think so every channel in any tool, it's not, I mean, you figure things out, but it's not static. It's changing and evolving. Something that I know subject line that worked last year is overused and not working as much today, or a certain channel is not performing as well. So it's always changing. So recently I've been curious about this concept. You mentioned data, and I think a lot of companies are focused on intent and using various tools. There's so many different tools. There's G2 Crowd, Bombora, ZoomInfo, et cetera, that provide intent, whether someone is visiting your website or looking at content that's relevant, kind of indicative of them being close to the kind of midway through their customer journey, so it can maybe proactively reach out to them, things like this. But on the flip side, we're finding this concept that someone, I think it was Chris Walker, who pioneered this concept of dark funnels, where they say a lot of early part of this customer journey happens outside of the reach of any sort of tools. Maybe it's a private Slack group, maybe it's over drinks with a friend, maybe it's in a sidebar conversation at a conference. So you only see those people kind of coming, filling out your form, and you show attribution as, oh, Google search. So you pour money into Google search. Meanwhile, the actual demand generation, the content, and the conversations are happening way upstream of that. So yes. How do you think about this? I can't call it a problem. It's just how things are. That as a cybersecurity marketer, you're not always driving those identifying and driving all those early stage customer journey steps, and people really kind of they don't respond as well to any sort of marketing messages, sales messages before they reach the intent state where they're ready to engage.
Well, first of all, very thoughtful point on your part, and it's a fantastic observation. And it's exactly why I want to go back to what I talked about before. It's one of the reasons I absolutely believe in micro branding and developing a region first, because what's the biggest problem we're really talking about? Trust. And because the market's overbuilt and saturated and noisy, no CISO or relevant titled person is going to just pick up a phone and call a vendor. It's just, boy, wouldn't that be nice? We wouldn't have jobs. We'd be all sitting on the beach or in the slopes skiing or whatever you want to do on your part-time. So I like to think of a key word here, community. So if I'm intimate with a region, I have a better understanding of who's driving the community, who's a thought leader, and who can I team up with. So ISACA, ISSA, ISC squared. In the Utah region, there's a group called Silicon Slopes. One of the ways we've micro-branded is we are sponsoring a minor league baseball team in the Salt Lake Basin. And we just did an event there this week. And let me tell you how it goes. We used Silicon Slopes. We used the ballpark. We used advocates in the region to do outreach. We filled a room. We put on panels with some of our partners who were told no vendor names, but talk about thought leadership. And the room was on fire, Misha. People were learning. They were sharing best practices. They were realizing they had peers in the region they could network with. Did we get an immediate business deal out of that event? Actually, we did. However, that was a customer we'd been working with for 6 months, but they closed the deal because they got to throw the first pitch out at the ball game, and they felt really special. Another key word, memorable event. But more importantly, the other double-digit folks in the room realized, hey, these Stellar Cyber guys are cool. They get it. They get that I have to learn from them first. I have to see if their community means something to me and my community. And if so, I'll now align with them and get on their train. And if you don't think that way, you're going to just get a lot of headwinds and you're not going to make any progress in your funnel. So people have to be more patient. They have to be more thoughtful. We all have to recognize to the CFO, the CRO, the board that guess what? Sales cycles in the enterprise are not getting shorter. They're getting longer. And so the journey of capture the lead and work it is actually wrong. You've got to first capture people's attention way before they send you a lead. And build a partnership and show them that the word don't say partnership right out front, right? You've got to let them say, hey, I think I can partner with you. Let them tell you that. Now you know you got them.
Interesting. There are two things that I just want to double click. One is, I think it's so important, and I think a lot of people are missing the point that you need to have the patience to play the long game.
Yeah.
You're focusing on the transaction. People are so calibrated on sniffing the intent.
Yeah.
You you say words, but they're really looking for why is this person saying those words, and they're really the sensors are very sensitive. The sensors are really fine in terms of figuring that out. So if you have the patience of giving and not asking, that will go a long way. And unfortunately, I think marketers, again, not to generalize, but I think marketers are more have the mindset of playing the long game, and when sales are, what can we do to make the to number this quarter? Otherwise, I'm not getting my commission.
Well,
otherwise, I'm not getting the bonus. So that's one interesting observation, and the other, again, I'm not going to ask how much you spend on it, but I imagine it was not as much as you would have had to spend at Black Hat or RSA, where you'll be one of 400 other vendors in a room, versus you're in a ballpark. You probably won, so all eyes are on you, and you got your prospect to throw the first pitch, and you close the deal. It's said going niche and going grassroots makes so much sense. So you want to be different, not better, because better you're compared to 400 other people, and being different and going niche will make so much sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now, again, it's money is money, and everything costs money. And you if you want to be a player in the industry, you still have to be a Black Hat and RSA, unfortunately. But the way we decided this a couple of years ago was we looked at the data, and I put the leadership hat on and challenged the executive team and myself and the board. And I said, if you're not going to give me a 10x increase in spend, here are some ways to be efficient, but we have to focus. This is, again, marketing wins when the company focuses. You have to team up with sales and encourage them to partner with you internally. Again, hate that word, but it's important to also agree on where the focus is. So it's win-win for them, because they need funnel, as you said, and they've got the bogey. And then find ways to measure the movement. And I think the Sixth Sense team, that's where that whole idea of the dark funnel came from. But there's a part before the dark funnel, which I don't know what it is. Maybe you and I should team up and brand that and become rock stars and write blogs about it for the rest of our lives. But it's getting that community to realize that when there's 100 companies saying threat detection and response, which is what we do, what do people really want to know? Is it going to work for me, with my team, in my region, with my budget? You can't figure that out from a website, and you can't figure that out with a cold call. You've got to meet our customers and our partners to see if our ecosystem that we've developed around us aligns with the customer's ecosystem. And I don't know how to define that, Misha, but that's really what I'm talking about. And that's the investment that you need to make and the commitment you need to make. And the good news is, boards, I think, in general, are becoming more accustomed to this idea that the funnel is getting longer. And I think, at least in security, there's more understanding that there is a signal to noise problem, and you can't just spray and pray, and you can't outspend your way. You've got to be frugal as well as intelligent about where you're investing.
For sure. And we've seen high flying companies that raise incredible amounts of money and just splashing them around.
Yeah.
And they're hitting some of the headwinds. So it's absolutely right. I know we're coming up on Steve. Huh?
They're laying people off now. I won't say one by brand, but they were doing a lot of Fox and CNN ads at the beginning of last year after raising a lot of money. And I scratched my head and I said, first of all, how many people watching this are actually targets? And second of all, I just don't know how they're going to spend this long enough for it to work. And guess what? After 3 months, they turned the ads off. So,
well, it's, Warren Buffett said once that when the tide goes out, it's obvious who was swimming naked. So it's I think we're seeing some of that. Again, not to like do the Schadenfreude thing. I feel sorry for the people who are or investors and employees who kind of get impacted. It's a little bit unfair, but again, with risks come. If you take risks, sometimes you get burned, for sure. So this was lots of fun. As we coming up on time, you have a crystal ball, you can see into the future. 12 months from now, cybersecurity marketers will be excited, worried, concerned, losing sleep over what 2-3 things. It could be technology, it could be theme, it could be trend. Will be the headline in Cybersecurity Marketing Insider will be the headline of the newspaper.
Yeah, I think right now everybody's pushing AI-driven tools to say I can now magically understand your funnel and buyer behavior. But I believe in it. We have learned how to use ChatGPT to be very successful already and save us time and money. And so I believe in a year we'll have flushed out the hype, and there will be a handful of AI tactics that actually work and help us be more intelligent about not just intent, but more specifically what the person is looking for and where they are in their buying decision or their learning pattern to know what event to go to learn about new vendors. I think we're going to get there. The tools are definitely moving in that direction because we all just want better use of the data we have. And I think the machine learning / AI tricks that are out there will have come to a grounded landing where we know the 5 things that really work in a year. That's my prediction.
Awesome.
So I don't want to be afraid of it. I'm going to embrace it, Misha. We're already embracing it big time.
It's great. So I hope we'll get a chance to talk again in a year. So we'll see where we are.
You can check me on that.
Steve, this was lots of fun. Where can people find you? What's the best way to connect?
Well, I'm very visible on LinkedIn, Steve Garrison, Stellar Cyber AI, SVP of Marketing. You can follow our channel as well, Stellar Cyber Channel. We do a lot of fun things. We do a pun on every Wednesday to help educate. We put a lot of baseball stuff out there because of our sponsorship. We try to be clever and different and not boring. So our goal is not be boring, Misha. That's
awesome. I love it. Different is always different versus better. I'll pick different anytime.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having me, and thanks for the audience for listening to us today.
Absolutely. Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you.